Hello everybody, here we are today talking about a variety of things including the Anthony Mantha trade as well as the Elias Lindholm, Jake Guentzel rumors. So before we get into that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So yeah, we're just going to kind of cover these two main topics. I know there's a lot of trades going on today. I'll probably do a recap video tomorrow about that. But anyway, we are discussing the Mantha trade from yesterday that I did want to talk about. I took some notes over it, and then the Guentzel Lindholm rumors, which we'll get to later. So with Anthony Mantha being shipped off from the Capitals to Vegas, they are in return getting a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick. Now, this is an interesting deal because of the fact that Mantha is coming over after the Mark Stone injury. And we talked about this in a recent video that I did probably about last week, where the team basically said with Stone being on LTIR, they were going to try to make some additions. Mantha is now one of those additions and is somebody that I think kind of flies a little bit under the radar. And in part, you could probably point to the fact that he's got 3 20-plus goal seasons under his belt, but I think some people are kind of discrediting what he could do for the team because of the fact that this is his first 20-plus goal season since the 2018-19 campaign, the other two happening with the Detroit Red Wings. Now, I do want to say in regards to that, you kind of have to look at the fact that when he got shipped over to Washington, he wasn't getting necessarily as many minutes as you probably would like to see him get. Over the course of his 174 games with the Capitals, he averaged less than 16 minutes a night. It might have even been 15. So the opportunity to do a whole lot in that span is just kind of very difficult to do. And another thing I do want to point out as well is the fact that while those two 20-plus goal seasons happened in Detroit, you kind of look at where they were at the time and you figure, yeah, he would have had an opportunity to do what he would have wanted, whereas going over to Washington, it's a different situation on a different team that has different expectations. But with expectations, I think that things are going to be going better for Mantha because expectations for him should be lower in Vegas. And I think in regards to expectations being lower with Vegas, it really comes down to the fact that in his time with Washington, they were a side that had regularly made the playoffs, were not too far removed from a Stanley Cup championship, and had Ovechkin and some other guys that had been around for a minute, and they were hoping to kind of keep things going and maybe get a second championship. I don't really know if people really would have expected that, considering they were a decent team, but just couldn't really do a whole lot come the playoffs. But yeah, Mantha being a young guy that they had seen have 2 20-plus goal seasons in his career up to that point, we're hoping, okay, younger individual that could grow, become this 30-plus goal scorer for us would be ideal. Whereas Vegas already has a lot of talent. They are a team that just won the championship, and they are, again, making additions. This isn't a side that is saying Mantha is going to have to go out there and be the guy. He is a piece that is part of the puzzle to winning another championship. I look at him right now, and he has the second highest points per 60 in his career this season, and he's somebody that is about on a 50-point pace. Mind you, this is somebody, again, joining a team that is probably going to be able to give him more opportunities or just better opportunities to be into, and I'm hoping that with a fresh environment, things can go there for him and go very well. I think at the end of the day, the Capitals understand they're not making the playoffs. They have an unrestricted free agent in Mantha that's not getting a lot of opportunities. And they said, you know what, we can get some picks out of him. In Vegas is saying, you know what, we don't really want these picks right now because we're focused on winning another championship. And so they pulled the trigger on this deal. And I think for both sides, it kind of works. Maybe you're hoping for more in the Mantha trade if you're a Washington fan. But for Vegas, I'd have to say I'm pretty happy for them. And I think that this could be a good piece and something we look back at and say, oh, this was a good decision for them, as they would go on to do this in the playoffs, maybe even win the whole thing. As for another talking point in this video, we're talking about the news that Elias Lindholm could be traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, or I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen here, as the Canucks are reportedly in on Jake Guentzel. I think as a Canucks fan, here's what my honest opinion is, and it's that I'm a little concerned. So Lindholm has played 15 games with us, and things haven't been great. He has, I think, 6 points in those 15 games, has a 7-game streak without any points, and his goals for percentage is not ideal. A lot of it kind of stems from him playing on the PK. Things haven't really clicked there as of late, as he is just in a spot where he's played like 60 minutes and we've allowed 7 goals, so that will have an impact on his goals for percentage. But even at 5-on-5, things haven't been going electrically well. Been playing minutes with Pettersson, been playing minutes with Hughes, and they've kind of been about 50% for the goals for percentage in that time. You could say that it may take more time to gel, and I absolutely think that is the case, but at the same time too, I think some fans are already on the boat of we need to ship him off and we can get this big shiny piece in Jake Guentzel. What I'll say for this is my concerns really lie from what the possible asking price is for Jake. He is somebody that has scored a lot of goals, has played in a Stanley Cup final, has played a lot of playoff games, and is a UFA, so Pittsburgh's wanting to probably get a haul for him. And it's coming out now that Sidney Crosby is reportedly not too happy that they might be trading him, so they'd probably want to appease Crosby by saying, look at all these pieces that we got back in this trade. So from what I'm hearing, the Penguins kind of are leaning towards prospects or players that they could get back in return, and they are still likely looking for a first-round pick. So I would ideally, if you're a team, think, well, we're going to give up this and this instead of all three things. Because if you were to say, we want you to give up Lindholm, we want you to give up a good young prospect and a first-round pick for a guy that's likely going to be a rental, I just don't really feel like that is necessarily the move to make, because again, with like 20 games remaining, does it seem more like a fairy tale that you're going to say, oh, this guy's going to come in here with 20 games remaining and we are going to go out there and we're just going to go on a tear and win the championship for the first time in franchise history? At least that's kind of my mindset around it. It's kind of a gamble, and at the end of the day, if the gamble doesn't pay off, you lose Lindholm, which isn't necessarily the end-all be-all. You lose a prospect and a first-round pick for a scenario where maybe you get knocked out early. I can't really say, because again, I think some people are a little bit more likely to gamble on some of these things to possibly make a run, and I know other teams are going to try to make moves. We're already seeing a lot of trades today as the trade deadline approaches, and I just kind of wanted to add my 2 cents into this, because for me, I think a lot of teams just aren't comfortable staying with what they have, even though they've put together a really good season, and they say, well, everybody else is making moves, so we got to make moves. I just don't want it to be at the cost of the short term and the long term for the Canucks. So anyway, what are your thoughts on those two things? Who do you think wins the Mantha trade? And then who do you think that Guentzel will go to? Let me know that stuff down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And Eagle love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.